Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha. Guru Reva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sarva Mangala Mangalle Shive Sarvartha Sadhike Sharanye Trambake Devi Narayani Namostute. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Mahalakshmi Rupena Samstita. Namastasya, 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 Namo Namaha. Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Shri Hanumanji Maharaj Ki Jai. Welcome to Nitya Satsang. Today is the 8th of October 2025. I want to offer my prostrations and respects to all the sages, bhaktas, devotees on the planet today, and to Bhagavan residing in the heart of every single being at all times, in all places. With that prarthana, we are continuing to examine the connection between Prema Bhakti, Prem Lakshana Bhakti, as well as the Jivan Mukta state, and the current subject of the Ashtanga Yoga, Raja Yoga. In the very first limb of Ashtanga Yoga is called Yama. And that Yam has 5 components to it, or 5 values, 5 great austerities, sometimes they're called. They are in fact qualities. So these qualities set the foundation for much further psycho-spiritual development. What are those qualities? Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, and Aparigraha. So the Ashtang means there's 8 limbs: Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. We'll go through all of them as we progress further. So I want to go further a bit today into Brahmacharya, and to kind of pick up from where we left off yesterday. This is a very tricky and convoluted subject for many reasons. One of the big reasons is that people don't want to talk about this. There is a lot of secrecy about it. There is a great deal of guilt and shame about it. There is also an internal battle that most people go through with regards to the entire sexual experience. Obviously we are born out of that. So, and in the Gita also, Bhagavan Krishna says, I am Kamadev. Out of all the devatas, I am Kamadev. So how does this all connect together? And then why is Brahmacharya necessary? Well, again, this is a very, very profound subject, but I think for our purposes, in terms of practicality and the life that we all have in this material world, we have to think of Brahmacharya in terms of the energetic bank account, which I've talked about a lot in Angel Wing program, but we haven't talked about Brahmacharya in the Angel Wing program as much as such, or the sex energy part. Maybe to some extent we'll talk about it as a special topic at some point. This is something that is not discussed very often. Even medical science and other areas don't really talk about this. What is the effect of the loss of the root core sexual energy, the root energy that is used in creating the experience of pleasure? Because that's what this is about, isn't it? This is called, in Gujarati we say, Purush na manma Stri Sambandhi Sukh, and Stri na manma Purush Sambandhi Sukh. This is in a heterosexual relationship, and I hope you don't mind, I'm going to be talking about this a bit openly, within certain limits, obviously, to really try to explain what is Brahmacharya, because hardly anybody does so. And it's like a forbidden subject, or I don't know what it is, what the problem is. It's really unbelievable. But it needs to be talked about. And it is one of the limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga. It's one of the most foundational qualities. Now, let's look at it in terms of energy. We know we have energy. We also know, particularly in the male body and in the female body in another way, that there's a considerable amount of energy in the creation of this experience. So the word sukham, that word sukh is used in the sexual response cycle. That is called an orgasm in the English language, orgasm. That's an experience, a jolt of pleasure. It's in the brain. Reward activation system, RAS. Quite a bit of brain chemistry is involved to create that experience. And that experience is intense. It is compelling. It is sought after. It hijacks. The mind becomes focused in that completely for the purpose in the male body for procreation, so that the semen can be discharged and then impregnate the female. That's its real purpose. That is its purpose. Right? But this pleasure is such that it has such a hold over the male brain, and of course the female brain also in its own way. It functions a bit differently. And I'm specifically talking about Brahmacharya with regards to the sexual response cycle, specifically. Brahmacharya is a bigger concept than just that. It means, revolving in Brahman, and it has to do with, all other values and other good qualities and everything. It has all that interconnected within that also. But specifically with regards to the energetic aspect of the sexual response cycle, it's very, very interesting, very important to understand and see where it takes us. So first of all, let's go back a little bit to be clear about the sexual response cycle. This was mapped out by Masters and Johnson in 1960s sometime. It's called, there's a big book, in fact, it's called Human Sexual Response Cycle. You can look it up. It's available for free online. And it's a detailed study and analysis of how this cycle works. So there's different phases. There's an excitement phase, a plateau phase, an orgasmic phase, refractory phase, and then again excitement phase, as time goes on. The fact of the matter is that there are ancient rishis were aware of this because they were students of the inner world. They said that what can we do with this energy? Because they realized there's an energy flow. And not only that, they realized that this same process, which is moving downward, can move upward. So there's two flows of the sex energy. There's two flows. One is a downward flow for procreation purpose, which has a beautiful purpose. That's how we were created, all of us, everybody. But then there's a downward flow just to seek pleasure. Sukh, the Stri Sambandhi Sukh, Stri ne Purush Sambandhi Sukh, which then becomes Vasana, Kama Vasana. So again, remember the Gita talks about, Bhagwan Krishna says, I'm Kamdev. He doesn't say I'm Kam Vasana. That's the difference between the two. Bhagwan Krishna, what he says, I am Kamdev, meaning he is the master of this sex energy. And Bhagwan Krishna was one of the few in the history of the world who mastered Ashtanga Yoga. Yes, he was a master of Ashtanga Yoga. He had mastered it. So he was a great yogi also. He's a Yogeshwar. वो भी एक अद्भुत बात है. गोपालानंद स्वामी भी हो गए in the स्वामीनारायण tradition. वो भी अष्टांग योग थे. उन्होंने भी इसको master किया था. ये बहुत अद्भुत बात है. Vivekanand Swami had mastered this Brahmacharya. But again, please keep in mind, there are different paths here. गृहस्थ आश्रम का एक path है और जो नैष्टिक ऊर्ध्वरेता नैष्टिक ब्रह्मचर्य का एक path है. So it's going to take some time to explain. We may have to spend a few days on this so I can properly explain this. But we'll see. Because it's very confusing to a lot of people. Alright. Let's be clear about several points. We know that the energy flow is present. Rishis discovered that there's an energy flow. The energy flows downward through the sexual response cycle, particularly in the male body. Female body का थोड़ा अलग है. They don't lose prana as quickly. In the female process, they lose prana much later on. In the male, the loose prana with the orgasm and ejaculation happening at the same time, a tremendous amount of energy is lost in that for procreation. In the French language, it is called la petite mort, M-O-R-T, the little death. Yes, that is what it is called. Because it is using a lot of resources, physiological, neurological resources, to create that, to create the orgasmic experience, and then from there to discharge the semen, which is the out of the sapta dhatu, the 7 substances, it is the last substance. Amazing, right? It's very interesting. Okay, now, what can be done? So, given the limited time we have, I'll put it to you in 3 parts here. Yes, for procreation with good sadhana, bhakti, yoga sadhana, other asanas, and moderation of diet and all in the grahasthashram, just ordinary regular relationships. The more sadhana that is done, Namah Shivaya mantra, Ved mantra, and the more the sexual activity is regulated, to that extent there is better psychological and physical health. This is a hypothesis. I know. I mean, there is research behind it, but I don't have the research in front of me right now. So I'm going to put that to you as a theory, as a hypothesis. I at some point I can put all the research together. I don't want to put it to anybody as a fact. I want to put it as a hypothesis and as a possible conjecture or theory. But this is what the rishis claim. Remember, we talked a bit about ojas before. Ojas is a tremendous idea. This word is in the chapter 15 of the Gita also. So, aham ojasa, Bhagavan kehte. That this power, if it is regulated and the sexual activity is done, in a regulated way, with a lot of mixture of adhyatmic sadhana, mantra jap, yogic sadhana, Bhagwan ke mandir mein jana, bahut spiritual life. Or isme se jo, from this the child that is born, that child is a divine child. Because that it's an attraction. See, we don't see the whole picture. Within the womb of the mother, once the conception happens, at some point, maybe at the point of conception, at some point, there's the Jivatma that enters, or Jivatma takes on that body. What is the type of Jivatma that will come? With which sanskara? So it depends on the vibrational frequency of the parents. If the parents are bhaktas, yogis, devotees, they have done a lot of sadhana together and they have created a child, they engage in the sexual process, that is what Sri Krishna is saying, I am Kamdev. Wo Kamdev ki Shakti wahan as Krishna. And the high quality soul comes. Yes. Sometimes great saints are born this way. Great rishis are born this way. Great yogis are born this way. Great bhaktas, muktas. Amazing souls come into life. And then, of course, the other opposite extreme of that, lot of damage to sex energy, drug use, violence, arguments. Ye jo sab chalta hai before pregnancy, during pregnancy, even many years before pregnancy. The kind of atma that comes, wo asuri atma aata hai. Asuri jivat. Atma is not asuri or devi, it is divine always. But the jivatma is an asuri and it causes havoc in the family. This is the kind of spiritual discovery that was made. Now people say, you can ask me, how do you prove this? I cannot prove this to you. These are the theories. Ek anubhav ka prashna hai. Bahut adbhut baat hai ye sab. It's quite absolutely amazing, right? To try to understand these things. That the jivatma that comes in the womb is based on the sanskaras of the parents. Okay, now, having said that, there are those individuals, particularly in modern times, that are absolutely crazy behind the sexual experience. Absolutely crazy. Bahut. And that's also used as a recreation, it's used as a drug, it's used as as a release, as a tension reliever, all that kind of thing. Look at the population of India and China and all these countries. Why is there so much population? This is why. You see, because it is the one thing that one can escape. And there you go. And then it goes again, it keeps repeating again. And I say, whole life goes like this. You see, and God knows what happens out of it. Before birth control and all that, so much population issues, so many children, 10 children, 15 children. Throughout the world, it was like that. You see, that is a process placed by God for procreation. Amazing. It's absolute, wo divya shakti hai. This is one of the most relevant points. First point to understand is that this is a divine power of Bhagwan. ये भगवान की शक्ति है, which has been granted to each human being. Yes, it has been granted. Now the question, because we have a bigger brain, is what to do with that power. So just to use it only for the pursuit of pleasure and to keep running in that direction, because then people take stimulants, they take vitamin supplements, they take Viagra, they eat a lot of, specific types of non-vegetarian food or even other kinds of food to increase that stamina for sexuality. They get surgeries done to increase the penis size and all that kind of stuff, right? Because this becomes predominant. Rajogun, Rajas. Iske piche lagna. Iske piche lagna. My God. Incredible. You see how Rajogun works. I don't mean to be graphic, please forgive me, but we have to talk about it as it is. And that's okay. Thank God for this platform. Within Maryada, no doubt. People don't want to talk about this stuff. It has to be talked about. And until we talk about it, there's no way to go further in the spiritual path. And it's hidden. It's all hidden. In all communities, this is hidden. But it needs to be opened up within conversation, dialogue, and Brahmacharya needs to be understood properly. Then amazing things can happen. Anyway, let's go one step at a time. There are those who are interested in just expanding, again, running after this. Vachanamrut में श्री जी महाराज कितने references है on this काम वासना. उन्होंने एक बात लिखी है, स्त्री ने विषय उठा बैठानी वासना. पुरुष के मन में ये सब चलता है. He talked about this before all the neurological research was done and all that. Just, this is going on day in and day out. Just चलता ही है. All you have to do is go to a place like Las Vegas. That's a prime example. Right? Now what do you find? Hedonism, sexuality, all kinds of stuff going on. और इसमें से मिलता क्या है? This is the point. That pleasure is where the mind is so stuck inside there, because that is immediately available. Bhagwan has placed that process for the purpose of procreation. Even Gita says that. Bhagavad Gita says clearly that the sexual activity within the realm of scriptures is absolutely beautiful. वो मैं ही हूँ, भगवान कहते, because that is his power for procreation. But when we have taken that power and that experience and have just ran after that, bhog vasna, and the bhoga experience is incredibly intense. Let's be honest about that. Let's not lie about that at least. ये सत्य बात है. Is it true or not? Let's be very clear. There are 3 types of bhog. Uttam, Madhyam, Kanisht. Vachanamrut, Garada Pratham, number 2. Maharaj talks about Vairagya in there. From the Uttam, Madhyam, Kanisht. Uttam meaning the highest quality of bhog. This is true with all sense objects and is particularly true in the sexual experience. Is it true or not? Obviously, we cannot deny any of it. It is 100% like that. Uttam, Madhyam, Kanisht. Uttam meaning the highest stimulative experience, medium level, and really low level experience. Based on the desires, based on the experience. Now, why that is like that, that's another big subject in itself. That is the Raga Dvesha continuum. Very interesting, right? But this is true, is it not? This is true with everything. In every sense experience, there is this gradation. Whether it is coffee or tea, or whether it is food items, or whether it is anything. I mean, you could just make, in Gujarati we say dal, bhat, shak, rotli. Rice and dal and chapati and some vegetables. You go to different places, different ways it is made, different masalas, this, that. This is nice, this is nice, this is nice. Vishaya ka sukh aisa hai. And it gets saturated. That's the other fact of it. But there's a gradation there. Obviously there's a gradation. And in the sexual experience, there's obviously a gradation. And one of the biggest problems in the sexual experience is the saturation effect. This is the nature of sense enjoyment. If I'm having one gulab jam, I said at somebody's house or at the restaurant or make it at home, have one or two gulab jam, very nice. And then somebody says to me, you better eat this now every single day, the same gulab jam every day. You say, I don't want to eat this anymore. Don't you think that happens with sexuality? Of course it happens with sexuality. How can you say no? Obviously it happens with sexuality. And because it happens with sexuality, there is then running in extramarital affairs, running in pornography, masturbation, doing whatever. There's all kinds of things. Because of the saturation effect. How can you avoid it? Is it possible to avoid? I've asked anybody this question. Who can avoid this saturation? It's called tolerance effect in the addictions world. But I'm not using that word addiction right now. I'm talking about just normal sense enjoyments. If somebody says to me that you have to eat a vegetable sandwich, lettuce, tomato, cheese, and a vegetarian mayonnaise on rye bread, which Sachin said, I like it. Okay, you eat this today. Now you eat this tomorrow. Now you eat this the next day. After 3 or 4 days, I'm going to say, I don't want this anymore. I'll want it later. I get it away from me. Don't you think that happens with sexuality? Of course it happens with sexuality. 100% it happens. And because it happens that way, the human mind, particularly the male mind, starts running in different directions. Because in the female are looking more for relationship enhancement, and the sexual piece is connected to that through the relationship emotional bond. Unka system alag prakar ka hai. And there's an imbalance between the male and the female. This is why all the adhyatmic sadhana is done. Starting with the marriage ceremony that we have, and all the mantras that are chanted, and all the puja and archana. If you look at it from the Brahmacharya point of view, the entire set of rituals in the Sanatana Dharma has everything to do with rebalancing the male-female sexual response cycle. Whether it is Janmashtami, whether it is any ritual, any puja, archana, any kind of this, Navratri just went right now, Shivratri, every ritual that is done as a family, as husband, wife, from a energy point of view, it has to do for Grahastha, it has to do with balancing. It's not completely that, but it has to do with balancing the sexual response cycle so it connects properly. And the male, the human male, doesn't keep running after other people, other things like that, and reaches a sense of satisfaction because of increased sadhana. Have you ever heard anybody talk about this? If you have, send me to let me know. I'd like to know who's talking about this. Because nobody wants to talk about this. People go to temple after temple. They sponsor big programs. Even these big kathakars are there. किसी की हिम्मत ही नहीं इस बात पर बोलना. They don't want to talk about it because they don't know how to talk about it. If they start talking about it, what will they talk about? It is such a massive confusion in the society. On the one side, people are looking very religious, very holy, very this, very that, and who the heck knows what is going on in the back door. This is the reality. Let's stay with the reality. जो सत्य है वो सत्य ही है. Now, this is a problem. It is a very serious problem, this imbalance. It's a serious problem because how do you resolve this issue? This is the nature of Vishaya Bhog, sense enjoyment. You have the same sense enjoyment every day, you're going to be sick and tired of it. That's a fact. There's no question about that. So what do you do then? Start running after other people? Start running. That's what's happening, right? Why there's 70-80% divorce rates, extramarital affairs, STDs, pornography, this and that. Iska karan kya hai? Because of saturation effect, because of tolerance effect. I can prove it to you psychologically. Oscillation effect. What technical language is isme? What to do? The first thing to be done. Now this brings us back to what Patanjali is talking about. And Patanjali is in that entire line of Rishi Parampara. Kitne mahan Rishi ho gaye, Patanjali Maharishi. And that's why he put Brahmacharya right in the very first stage. He put it there to awaken the entire world that look, Brahmacharya is the foundation. These 5 foundational practices, ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. Isme jo problem ho gaye, of course there will not be spiritual realization, but not only that, there in this life also there will be so much trouble with the problem in these 5. And that's what we see in the world today. The world's problems, 99% of the human problems are because of damage to these 5 principles. Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha. And let me say one more thing about this. That the desire just for the sexual experience, wo prem nahi hai. Prem isme aa sakta hai. It can be linked to love. But just the stimulative experience that I want this experience from you, is that love? Let's be honest about it. Let's talk about it. Let's understand this thing. How can that be love? It is the ahankar. That I want this experience from you. That is not love. Love ki baat hi alag hai. Love is a whole different dimension. This experience of the male-female sexual response cycle can be and should be integrated in the overall dimension of love or overall reality of love. That is Kamdev, Bhagwan Krishna. That is Radha and Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But if it is not integrated into the overall dimension of love, then it will be vasana. It will be stimulant. It will be ego, ahankar. I want this kind of experience. I had somebody tell me some years back, I won't give the name obviously we don't use anybody's name. Some individual, very good devotee, Bhagwan ke koi, in particular some sanstha he was involved in some place, And he and his wife had a conversation with me about this whole sex issue. And he was telling me that he cannot engage in the sexual process with his wife unless there's pornography going on. मैं सीधी बात कर रहा हूँ आपको. ये सत्य बात है. This is the reality of life. You cannot realize God until we see reality face to face as it is. And there's so many people in that situation. Or they imagine some other person because sex is imagination. Manovahanadi, Vachanamrut. Garada Pratham 71 Vachanamrut. गोपालन स्वामी का प्रश्न है मनोवाह नाड़ी का. मैं आपको बताऊंगा. ये बहुत अद्भुत सब्जेक्ट है. Because we could spend 2-3 years on this. It's fantastic. But I'll try to put it within a certain boundary to give you an encapsulated version. मनोवाह नाड़ी में मन रहता है. एक मन, सेक्स तो एक कल्पना है. It's a कल्पना. It is a certain kind of imagination from which the experience is activated, and that pleasure is then, it is very compelling. That's, I want that experience, and then I want it again and again and again, and I want it expanded, not just one time. Look at now. Forgive me for giving you talking about this openly. If you look at pornography sites and all that, they have these categories. They have all these categories. In the last 30 years, those categories have expanded. They keep expanding. Why is that? Saturation effect. Kisi ko trupti hui hai? That's the proof right there. And the damage. I remember giving a presentation on sex addiction and gambling addiction many years back at a conference. At the end of the workshop, one individual came up to me and said, that he had spent $25,000 on internet pornography. $25,000 on internet pornography. Ye kya hai? What is this? This is an addiction. It's an illness. It's a sickness. The mind becomes sick. इसको कहते हैं असद वासना, असत पुरुष. वचनामृत का भी लैंग्वेज है. ये सत्य बात है. We have to talk about this. People don't want to talk about this. And it is a shameful thing to talk about many times. Many times it is so secretly hidden. It's a secret relationship like with a drug. Secrecy. बहुत big part है इसमें. But once we take it out of that and really begin to see the energy aspect of it and recognize that running after this experience and to just expand that experience is not a doorway into Brahman, into pure joy, which is what each person is wanting. It's not that they want that experience only. They want constantly that experience, ever increasing experience. And there's a mistake made internally. That mistake is called missing the mark. And that is what the word sin means in Christianity and Judaism. Sin, the word sin, S-I-N, or what we say pap in Sanskrit, it means missing the mark. You miss the mark. What is it that is missed? That mistaking this experience for Ananda. वो आनंद नहीं है. It is part of Rajogun. It is part of the experience of Maya. That is not Ananda. Technically, it is called Brahmananda Sahodra. It is on the parallel line, like the two parallel lines in geometry that they never meet. It is a parallel line to Ananda. It is called Brahmananda Sahodra. Brahmananda is the real Ananda. Sahodra means brother of. बहुत अद्भुत बात है. Tremendous बात है to understand this thing. Because the whole Prakriti functions based on this principle. Ishvaraha sarvabhutanam ruddeshtrerjuna tishtati brahmayan sarvabhutani yantra rudani maya. As a mechanism, as a yantra, this is automatically going on because Bhagavan has placed his power, his thought power into this sansar, and it automatically goes on. वो भगवान का ही संकल्प है, भगवान की ही सृष्टि है. और that is Maya. Maya भगवान का ही power है. But if we want Paramatma, we have to turn our attention to the Shaktiman, Parabrahma. And turning that attention to where this power comes from, that is Brahmacharya. ब्रह्मचर्य एज ब्रह्म स्वरूप. भक्त चिंतामणि में लिखा है, निष्कुलानंद स्वामी ने. So that turning that attention happens in time. It can happen years, it can take years, it can take lifetimes. But the moment one realizes that this experience, it needs to be transmuted, parivartan, completely, that it's limited, it uses a lot of energy. If I keep running after it, it will cause a lot of damage. It will not open the door into the Brahman, and it will sink my consciousness into lower life forms. क्या बात है ये बहुत tremendous बात है. इसीलिए this one power, if it is properly directed, even in a husband-wife relationship, in a family, it is like lighting up the whole life beautifully. It will all dimensions of life will be lit up fantastically. क्या नहीं मिल सकता इसमें से? सब कुछ मिलता है. particularly the best quality relationship. And this was, I was mentioning this yesterday, the male has fundamental respect and love for the partner and is not looking at that partner only in that sexual modality. There's a piece of that, there's a part of that, but that is not the major drive. The major drive is love. The major drive is we are partners in life towards the highest of realization. These are extraordinary ideas, folks. Amazing. There's like so much to be said about this. Let me make a few more points in the next couple of minutes here. I have a lot of notes on this. There's some books written on this stuff actually also. So there's a couple of 4 points here. Ojas, Tejas, Virya and Mahavirya. 4 points to keep in mind. Now this is now the movement upward. That is called Brahmacharya. Ojas is what? It's the taking this vitality. We talked about this before. And it is climbing the ladder of bhakti. Ladder. You're climbing forward. Don't damage this wealth. Bhagwan has given us this wealth, as I already mentioned, for some purpose. And leave it for that purpose only. If you have children and everything is taken care of now, Bhagwan ke marg mein lagao ye shakti ko. That will open the door into prema bhakti. Who is Radhika ji or who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? It's 100% pure love. 100% divine love. And that divine love is Brahmacharya. That divine love is this Shakti is used for Brahmachintan, for Bhakti, for Seva, for higher development, the higher taste. In the Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara, they use this expression, higher taste. वो आता है. But so many people have difficulties. There was an incident recently. Some article had come out. Every few years something comes out. Every few months maybe even. Some 75-year-old sadhu. So I won't give the name of the organization. For years he was respected and, Tyagi sadhu. And then had some relationship with some lady. Vasna has not gone. Maybe a lot of scriptural knowledge is there, backwards and forwards. Bahut information hai, giving pravachans and people are bowing down and doing this and doing that. Vasna is the root in desires. When the opportunity presents itself, the person will go for that. Because he wants that experience. He as a male, even female, same thing. They want that experience. और इसमें से महाबंधन है. The bondage is tremendous. The bondage is absolutely incredible. Bandhan itna hota hai isme. Don't ask. And then a person has a regret. I have known, I won't give the name of the organizations, I have known sadhus, Tyagi sadhus who are in that saffron clothes for 25 years. I've known them. Had learned things from them and spoken to them and all that. Some of them today, they left that. They took the permission from their guru, said we cannot live like this anymore. Because the vasanas don't go. Doesn't matter if you have the most enlightened saint sitting in front of you. You could have God sitting in front of you and this thing won't go. Why? Because you want that. The ahankar wants that experience. And if it's not given the opportunity for that, there is no mukti. Bhakti to chhod do. It will cause rebirth upon rebirth as yog brashta. So I have known sadhus, 25 years they have taken this orange robes and all that. Zero progress. Yeah, they have progressed. They have a lot of knowledge and all that kind of thing. But vasna? No. Given the opportunity, they still, of course the person still wants that particular potent experience, Stri Sambandhi Sukh. So they go back and so they take the permission from the guru. I've seen sadhus cry in front of their guru. That this cannot get rid of this. They bless them and all that. But you have to, how does a person relinquish the desire for that particular experience? How does that even happen? इसमें ये सब internal बात है, where a person realizes its limitation. And this is the beauty of grahastha ashram, more than that, more than tyag ashram. In Grahasthashram, you get a chance to see it completely. We talk about in angel wing quantity, quality, direction, dimension, depth, and structure. One can see the structure of this vasana and say, I see it, its limitations, what it is, leave it alone. And if it is left alone in Grahasthashram, you can be the most enlightened being in this world. Much more enlightened than all these other people who are still sitting with vasanas and wearing these orange clothes or white clothes or blue clothes or whatever clothes they're wearing. It has no meaning, no consequence whatsoever. Not, it's just a bunch of Halloween costume jaisa hai wo. Uska koi arth hi nahi hai. Unless one has saintly qualities, what is just kapda pehra hai kuch. And people are externally bowing down and uski puja karte. Iska koi arth nahi. It's the internal realization. And how do you know what is sitting in somebody's mind? इसीलिए गुरु का चक्कर में नहीं पड़ना. Be very careful about who to make guru. Learn from everybody. भगवान शंकर को गुरु बनाना, भगवान कृष्ण को गुरुदेव बनाना. Be careful about pratyaksha guru. Unless you are 100% sure, do not get attached to any particular human being. Be very careful, because you don't know what is lurking in their mind, what they're doing in their private time. How do you know that? Just stay away from all this thing, most of it. Just be very, very careful. Unless you are really sure you've seen the person's life inside out, आपको दिव्य अनुभव है, वो ब्रह्म स्थिति में है, 64 qualities are there, अलौकिक स्थिति है, ऐसी अंतर में से in Gujarati, in satsang we say, सत्पुरुष ने ओळखवा. If you don't have all that thing, नमस्कार कीजिए, learn some good things, don't get attached to them internally. To nobody. भगवान in the शिक्षापत्री में clear आज्ञा है महाराज की, that भगवान कृष्ण और भगवान कृष्ण के अवतारों का ध्यान करना, कोई मनुष्य का ध्यान नहीं करना, कोई मनुष्य का ध्यान नहीं करना, ब्रह्मवेता का भी ध्यान नहीं करना. ऐसी आज्ञा है in the शिक्षापत्री. इसका कारण क्या है? Because of this reason, you start meditating on somebody other than God, and that person is incomplete. Even if that person has reached completion but was deficient before, not worthy of meditation. No way. Absolutely not. भगवान परमात्मा जो है और भगवान जो परमात्मा उनके जो अवतार है, they are worthy of meditation, not anybody else. ये शिक्षापत्री में कितना क्लियर लिखा है. बहुत सुंदर बात है. I wish I had 10-15 hours to talk about this stuff. It's so fantastic. Adbhut baat hai. But I just wanted to mention Ojas, Tejas, Virya and Mahavirya, which we'll cover this tomorrow. We'll look into this tomorrow. Maybe by the divine will, we'll spend some days on this. Bahut tremendous baat hai. Lots of prayers for everybody's success. And may God grant us the wisdom to understand these ideas, apply them in the right way, and open that doorway into Brahman, which is what Brahmacharya is really all about. So with that, Om Dhyanamulam Gurur Murti Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam Pujamulam Gurur Padam Mokshamulam Gurur Krupa Tameva Mata Chapita Tameva Bandhushya Sakha Tameva Vidya Dravinam Tameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Brahmanandam Paramusakadam Kevalam Gnanamurtim Dvandati Tam Gagana Sadrusham Tatvamasyadi Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalavachanam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Satgurum Tam Namami. Om Shri Radha Krishna Arpanamastu. Om Hrim Hrim Swaha.